You are a band of villainous cowboys. Villains, the whole lot of you. Gathered around a campfire after another hard day in the Wild West. Tell us your crimes. Tell us your secrets. Tell us what in tarnation happened to y'all. But do it quick. You've only got 6 shots till dawn.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of Tabletop RGB. It's October, which means one thing and one thing only, Cowboys. That's right, Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out at the end of this month. Everybody in the world is excited about it. So we're going to be playing a special Cowboy RPG this episode. Joining us will be Kyle Bailey.
Hello.
Wow, love the enthusiasm right off the bat. And Will Crosby.
Yeah!
There it is.
He's counterbalancing mine.
Yeah,
it evens out too.
Yep.
My waveform is a rectangle.
Just how I like it. Well, folks, let's talk about the system. So can you believe it? But I actually could not find like a nice, decent one-shot Wild West themed RPG system. The only ones I could find were like 40 pages.
Oh, wow.
So I don't even want to call it going overboard on prep work because it was actually pretty easy. But I wrote my own 200-word RPG, cowboy themed, of course, and it's called 6 Shots Till Dawn. So the basic premise is that we are a group of cowboys. We have had a day full of crime, with one big crime in particular, which will be determined by a roll. And we are going to tell the story of that crime. And as we're telling the story, and there's no order or kind of leader as we're going through this, we're going to be interrupting each other in character. We're going to hit moments that are challenging, moments in which we are doing something that is difficult. And we're going to have 6 shots between all of us. And so every time you reach a challenging moment, you have to spend a shot and roll a 6-sided die. And if you roll equal to or under the number of shots left, you succeed. So for example, the very first roll, you have 6 shots left, you roll, you have to roll a 6 or under, so it's going to be an automatic success. But towards the end of the game, we're going to have, let's say, 2 shots left, and you're going to roll, and you got to roll a 2 or under to be successful. And every time you succeed, you got to tell a story. Mostly a story about your past. What about your past, an event or moment or emotion made you successful in the moment today? And every time you fail, you get a scar. You know, did it hurt your body or your soul? How will it affect you in the future? Something that you're going to take away from this day that is going to kind of be a pain in your side, physical or emotional. And then at the end of the game, we tally up how many successes and failures we had, compare them to each other, and that determines whether we were successful at the crime or not, and then we tell a brief epilogue for each other. So what do you guys think? Does that sound feasible?
That sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds like a winner.
I heard and understood everything you said.
Great, because this has not been play tested in any way whatsoever, so this could fall flat on its face.
That's always good to hear at the outset.
Every time we get a shot, do we do a shot?
I was thinking about that as I realized I was writing the word shot a lot in the instructions, and I'm pretty sure we wouldn't die, because you're assuming 6 shots spread against us. That's 2 shots each. That wouldn't be that bad. I don't have any whiskey, so no.
I don't have any stomach for alcohol, or liver, really.
Ooh, we should replay this in person. So
okay.
And every time a shot is taken, everybody takes a shot. So by the end of the game, everybody's 6 shots deep,
except for Kyle, who shot water.
No, I'll do Diet Coke.
Oh,
yay! He'll be high.
All right, So let's do this. This is 6 Shots Till Dawn. So the very first thing we have to do is roll a 6-sided die to determine the crime that we attempted to commit today. So here we go, gentlemen. 5.
Ooh.
Oh.
A gang war. Wow. Okay. So just have that in your head. We are sitting around a campfire. It's the end of the day, and we have attempted a gang war, and we have to describe how it went. So the first thing we need to do, let's take turns describing our cowboys in 30 seconds or less. So, Kyle, do you want to go first?
No.
Okay, then I'll go first.
I'm still trying to like figure it out in my head.
Okay, all right, so I'll go first. And I think it's going to kind of be up to us just floating in and out of first person and third person. Just whatever works for the moment.
Okay. All right.
So here's my cowboy. They call me JW. That's Jebediah Wilson, but only my mother and the law calls me that. I'm on the tongue of the law a lot. They can't stop talking about my robberies and my crimes and my murders and my thefts. Allegedly, of course. I'm the tall, mean bastard of the West. All right.
That's good.
Hey, Ian, you're back. Some guy came in our chat. I don't know if you want to try to private it or anything.
JW. All right, Kyle. You think you have an idea now? You can say no, and I can force Will to go.
Force Will to go.
Hey, Will, it's your turn.
Okay, my character is Sleazy Pete.
Okay.
Wow. Sleazy Pete. I gotta write these down so I can call you guys by these proper names.
I don't know what Sleazy Pete's voice is yet. I don't know.
I think you just found it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm Sleazy Pete. I'm a gambling man. No, this is not good.
I'm like I am.
Forrest Gump. I don't know. Should I do a voice?
It's up to you.
Okay. Well, Sleazy Pete, he's a gambling man down from Blama and New Orleans, all sorts of eastern towns, and now he's moved out west and he's just cleaning up.
Okay.
Money wise.
Gotcha.
Not janitorial wise. And just going town to town hustling people.
Okay. Well, nice to meet you, Sleazy Pete. Jesus. I like the idea of you're just gonna put on terrible voices through the entire episode, and we're never gonna figure out which one is Sleazy Pete.
Of course, senor.
All right, Kyle. Now I get to force you to go.
All right. I think I have come up with one that at least sounds decent. My name is Ahab Oil Slick Jones. They call me Oil Slick because I was riding my horse one time and he fell into an oil slick and I got oil all over my face and body and it was real embarrassing and the name sort of stuck. So they just call me Oil Slick Jones. That's my name.
Ahab, pleasure to meet you.
Whatever.
Well, I guess I can kick this off. We had a long day, folks. Of course, the three of us were a well-known band of miscreants known as Jazz. That's JAS for JW, Ahab, and Sleaze. Of course, our official business name is JW, Ahab, and Sleaze. Well, we all know what happened today, but I think for the purposes of moving on, we should talk about it.
It's kind of therapeutic for all of us, I guess.
We need to talk about what happened with the Barley Brothers today. Sleazy Pete.
Like, totally what?
Skipping Sleazy Pete. Ahab. I still don't understand. Why were them Barley Brothers so mad at us in the first place?
Well, you know, Barley Brothers, it came up over on the hill, and it was our favorite hill. It was like our hill. It was in our territory. We saw them coming up on that hill and coming into our territory, and we needed to take care of things, make sure they didn't get in our territory any further. And well, we started shooting at them.
Oh, you took some shots at them?
Well, I mean, they came on up at us and they took some shots at us. I don't rightly know who fired first. I mean, it could have been me, it could have been some random person, it could have just been a dog barking, I don't really know. But I thought I heard something like a gunshot and I started shooting.
Well, I think that means we gotta roll a 6-sided die and determine if your first shots were successful or not in scaring them off.
Yep, it sounds about right. Do I roll this die?
Yes, sir. I
Oh,
believe that
okay.
would be you.
All right, that's me.
If you don't mind, Ahab.
All right, let's go. I've just rolled a 5.
Well, I do believe that is less than 6, which was the number of shots starting. And it sounds like you were successful with your first shots. Is that right?
It seems to be apparent.
Well, that sounds about right. So they ran off, but we knew trouble was brewing. Wasn't that right, Sleazy Pete?
Well, so it was.
Sounds like you got your voice back, boy. I don't rightly know what was wrong with you before, but
It's sure good to be here.
Well, Sleazy, maybe you should tell us what you did next.
Well, I ran outside, hearing them there shots, and I said to Ahab, "What in the heck is a going on?" And he turns to me, shooting, and he nearly nicks my kneecap off.
Oh, nearly, of course.
Yeah, so I run over to the treasure pile, and I start digging, hoping that we can bury this and run.
Yeah, considering the Barley Brothers, there's about 10 of them. Their mother was a bit popular, if you know what I mean. And there's only 3 of us. We start... I think I do remember that, all of us trying to bury this treasure pile, but there's so much treasure that we can only do so much of it. And we knew they'd be coming back for us, because we'd scared them off with your well-placed shots, Ahab. Thanks again. But we knew they'd be coming back. And that's when I had a real good idea. That's when I thought, they want all treasure, and maybe I'll buy this too. But what if we leave them the treasure and a well-placed piece of dynamite or 2 underneath it, so that when they come looking for it, we spy from the next ridge over, and they get close to the pile, and they get all happy about them gold and them stock certificates, and then we blow them sky high. Wasn't that a good idea?
Sure was.
And that's just what we did. We took as much treasure from that treasure pile as we could. We loaded up our horses, all 3 of us, and our pack mule, Sally. And we headed for the next ridge over, and we hid. And we left a nice little pile of treasure for them, and dynamite buried, and we waited for them to come. And I think it's right about now that we need to determine if that was successful or not.
Sure thing.
That was some nice, mighty fine dynamite that you put under there. We got that. We went into town and got that. Oh, nice looking dynamite.
Well, thank you, partner. And I'm just now realizing we forgot to tell a success story when you were successful. Do you want to do that now, Ahab, or just skip on over it?
I mean, there's not much to tell. I hit the target I was aiming at. One of the guys.
If I'm not mistaken, you're one of the best sharpshooters in the West.
I don't like to brag, but I brag. I'll take this moment to brag that I am pretty darn good with my sharpshooting eyes.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'll brag for you, it was 7 county championships and 2 state second places. Is that right?
3 state second places.
Sweet baby.
And that's why it worked so well. But my dynamite plan, on the other hand, well, it was a success, of course. They don't call me a JW for nothing.
It's 'cause it's your name.
Well, Sleazy Pete, if you could calm down for a second.
I'm sorry.
You don't want me to get mad again,
Wait,
do you? Well, so they come crawling and peeking up over the campsite where the next ridge over, watching them, and they start gathering around the pile. I swear, there's about 2 of them, armpit deep in it, and all the rest of them standing nearby. And I put my paws on that plunger, and I grease it, and I grease it, and I slam it home, and that pile blows sky high, and I kid you not, I got 3 of them look like. 3 of the Barley Boys dead, only 7 left on God's green earth. What do you think about that, boys?
It was a sight to behold.
One of his arms almost hit us. That was pretty interesting.
It was. But then, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was so excited and gleeful with my little plan that I didn't know what to do next. But thankfully, Sleazy Pete had a good idea.
Well, it was right about then that we heard that click behind us. And there was Sheriff Dufresne.
Oh, I hate that man so, yes I do.
Oh, he locked me up more times than the giant who used to poop everywhere. Horse, I mean.
Oh, yes, that giant, that draft horse that used to work for the Budweiser boys.
Yeah.
Now, he's a little bit incontinent. We all know about it, and all he does is dirty up the town.
Yeah, tasty though. And we heard Sheriff Dufresne behind us, and he clicked his gun. But I sees on his gun that he ain't got no bullets in it, so I act right quick and throw a rock at his head.
Oh, boy. You know, I actually was still so, as I said, gleeful that I was doing a little jig when this happened. I can't recall. Did that rock hit his head or not?
I think it struck him right between the eyes, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I think you may want to recall with a roll of the 6-sided die.
I think I do too. Tell me, how does one roll one of these dice, as
Well,
I cannot remember myself?
Y'all,
If we were to talk about some sort of telegraphic method of playing games and such, I'm sure it would be a forward slash and probably a roll space and then a D followed by the number of sides.
Now, that's just crazy. I'm assuming you'd want me to hit return after that, and then we'd all exclaim when we saw that. The rock did not hit him
It did not hit him.
in the head.
Now that you mention it, it did not hit him in the head because when I turned around, he was mad and not debilitated in the slightest.
Well, is what I said.
I'm pretty sure Sheriff Dufresne at that moment, well, he kind of had the drop on us, boys, and so he started leading us down that ridge, and made us drop our guns and such, and walking us back to town. Him on the horse, shotgun slung across his lap, and a revolver over his shoulder, and a 6-shooter in his hand, and he had us dead to rights all the way to town. Don't that sound about right, Ahab?
unfortunately, it does.
Oh boy, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was so tired when we got there, I can't even remember what happened next.
I had already started drinking by the time we blew up them boys, so I don't rightly remember exactly what happened.
Well, thank God for our little scrivener, Sleazy Pete, ain't that right?
If one was perhaps silencing a device in which made noise and was not quite as paying attention as he should have been, what did my esteemed colleague JW say to me again?
Well, it was essentially that Sleazy Pete,
If
it sounds like...
perhaps one's roommate was knocking on the door.
Well, Sleazy, well, quite frankly, Ahab had been drinking and I was tired and upset, and so it leads to you to be the only one to describe what happened after we were all three led into town by Sheriff Dufresne.
Well, Sheriff, he positioned himself in such a way where perhaps the forward momentum of his left boot could click against a railroad track and cause him to, as one would put it in the Bible, stumble. And he hit those railroad ties hard, and there was a snapping sound almost as loud as a bullwhip. And that neck bone just stuck right out of him in some ungodly manner. And
Oh my God.
us being chained together still, I didn't quite know what to do. And that's when I heard the trains whistle.
Oh my goodness. So that's how we got in a situation of trying to hop on a moving train, all three of us chained together.
It's true.
I do think I remember that part.
Oh, boy, gentlemen, I think you're going to have to give me just a couple seconds to recall if we were indeed successful. We were not.
Well, me silly.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what that train did. When we tried to get on it, and, well, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Technically speaking, we were on that train for about a quarter mile.
Technically.
But by which I mean that I myself had one hand on the train, and the rest of my body, and all of you two's body, was not on the train, but rather dangling and bouncing on the ground by the side.
Well, Sheriff's body was underneath the train.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We should consider that a success. What do you think, boy?
Oh, I don't know if you could consider that a body after what them wheels did to that thing. It was more like pieces.
It was real good. And I'm just real happy that the train ended up leaving his body behind much earlier than we ended up falling off the train. Otherwise, we would be amidst all that gore and viscera of the former Chef Defray.
All I got was a toe.
Oh, boy. It was real nasty right then and there. So just to paint the picture, boys, as we're telling this story, we're on the side of the tracks. We're all a bit bruised and sore. We are, unfortunately, all three of us still tied together. We're about a quarter mile outside the town. Seem like the sheriff's dead. Of course, we're the only ones to celebrate it at the moment. But at least, you know, we don't have our horses, we don't have our guns, we don't got any of our treasure because we done blown up half of it and the other half of it's with our stuff. But at least the Barley Brothers are down to 7. Ain't that right, boys?
Right. What the fuck?
Sleazy Pete, if you could,
I'm sorry there, JW. I just get so excited talking about them Barley boys dying.
I'm pretty sure Mr. Sleazy Pete hit his head once or twice or 50 times.
Mr. Sleazy Pete was my father, excuse me, and he has not returned from his quest for cigars for some time.
Sounds like
Well.
a bad Eddie Murphy impression.
oh my God.
Oh, it does. Oh,
Like Eddie Murphy doing an Eddie Murphy cowboy.
Sorry, I gotta get back in the cowboy. Oh, great.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to be honest with you. I took about a 3 or 4 hour nap after our little train ride just on the side of the tracks, and I think we all did as well. But when we woke up, what did we do? I can't recall.
Nobody knows, apparently. Well,
That's all right.
I do know that when we came to, it was pretty dark.
That's right.
And I seem to recall the the growling sounds of a bobcat coming on down from the wilderness. Saw three.
Oh.
that was the scariest moment of my life, and I don't know why he's laughing.
Oh, it's just the surreal nature of the situation. Just seems funny in hindsight, whether or not we lived or died.
To be honest with you, Ahab, I do remember that sound, but I thought it was just a nightmare dreamt up by the evil parts of my brain while we were sleeping. That gosh darn bobcat. All three of us tied together. Of course, we realized the only course of action we could take was to give the bobcat a sort of bear hug and wrap the chains around his neck and strangle him. Kind of a team effort sort, ain't that right?
I remember pulling as hard as I could.
I did do that, but in my mind, we were trying to tame it to make it a pet. But that was just me.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what happened next. Oh, you know what? It actually worked. We done killed the bobcat that way. We just, did quite frankly, real awkward group hug on it and just wrapped as many chains as we could, squeezing and hugging a little bit of each other, but mostly the bobcat.
Ain't the first time we killed something with an awkward group hug.
We don't need to talk about the first time, Sleazy Pete.
I'm sorry. She still smells sweet.
Well, that bobcat's dead. That's all that matters.
Well, and the point of killing that bobcat was so that we could use its claws to get the ropes up on off of our hands.
yeah, that makes a certain sort of sense that's really helpful right now. So there we were, chains off.
Oh, I throws ropes.
I don't know how you worked them so well, honestly, Sleazy Pete. It must be all that hustling of yours you picked up lock-picking with a bearcat claw at some point in your life.
My ankles have been snapped upon dozens of times.
You know what, this is also reminding me for the second time that we keep forgetting to tell stories about our successes and getting scars for our failures, but I think we're doing okay so far.
I think so too.
We're still alive.
We're still alive. The evening, as you said, was fast approaching. It was already dusk. And the end of our day was drawing near. And we had just one thing we had to do left. And that was to sneak into the Barley Boys camp and try and steal back whatever it was that they took from our campsite. And maybe kill a few of them in the process. How did we do that again?
Well, as far as I recall, I think we took them horses we found down by the watering hole, and we slipped up on them and rode as hard and as fast as we could until we reached the Barley Boys farm, in which we hid in a ditch until dark.
Oh, that's right.
Wasn't that right, Ahab?
And I must say, that was one of the most comfortable ditches I'd ever stayed in.
Oh, I tell you what, it certainly was a lot more comfortable than a quarter mile of train tracks.
Followed by a bobcat attack.
That's right. That's right. Oh, that bobcat was awfully soft. You got to ask me about it.
Ain't nobody asking you, JW.
I know. So there we were, waiting till dark for them Barley Boys to go to sleep. Of course, we were real eager to get going because, would you know it, them Barley Boys using the 2 noggins they got between all 7 of them to figure out that they can follow the dynamite detonation line all the way back to where we was hiding, where we weren't there anymore, but our horses sure were, and all of our guns and the rest of our treasure, so they gone sitting on a gosh darn pile of everything we done earned in our entire life, just sitting there in their camp. But thankfully, come around dark, they all fell asleep. What was our plan again? I can't remember what we were going to do.
Well, you know my nickname, right? What they used to call me.
Oil slick, I believe.
Lot
Yes.
lizard?
That was the other one. But the main one was Oil Slick. Now, ever since I had my incident with said Oil Slick, I've been known to carry around a couple cans of oil with me.
including your pocket cans that you keep on yourself at all times.
That wooden leg never fails.
I never leave the domicile without them. And I had come up with an idea to burn their barn down where they slept, or at least start a fire and get them moving, get them antsy and freaked out. And we'd come up on them somehow after they had, you know, some running around with the fire going on, and we'd get the jump on them.
Right. So if I remember correctly, there we were. All 3 of us done successfully spread this pocket can of oil all over the outside of the barn they were sleeping in.
It was a big can.
Yep, sure it was. Just about to light it on fire. How did that turn out?
Well, I struck the match as hard as I could against my forehead, where one does strike a match. And doggone it, my hair went up so fast that everything was just a orangey blur. And the next thing I knew, some rush of cold, yet warm, smelly liquid was all over my head, and the fire was out.
What was that?
I'm not sure, but done Ahab putting up his pants, and I remember thinking to myself, well, why is he putting up his pants?
It was just some water he had in a pocket water can. Ain't that right, Ahab?
Well, that's interesting.
That's just what we'll call it.
Yeah. But as for the barn, perhaps we should consult the six-sided die.
That's what I was going to do, and then somebody lit their cells on fire.
Oh, Sleazy Pete.
It wasn't me, I don't think.
Well, I have just rolled a 6.
Yes, sir.
That's the devil's number.
Yes, sir. It sounds like the barn fire went about as successful as Sleazy Pete's little campfire.
Yeah.
Well, if we count the fire part, it was quite successful. So I don't think it makes sense that you say that it was just as successful when we failed.
Well, quite honestly, Sleazy Pete, and I don't mean to schism our group a little bit, but I was a little put off because it didn't sound like a successful fire considering the high-pitched yelling and screaming that came out of your mouth during the entire debacle that such woke up all 7 of the remaining
It was
Barley
a
Brothers.
rain dance to put the fire out.
Well, whatever you call the entertainment, you can consider all the Barley Brothers entertained having come out of the barn to catch all of us in the midst of our plan.
You know what? I don't think I recall any more of this story.
Ahab, you gotta finish it out, brother.
So, the oil slicks serve 2 purposes. One, had we successfully lit them on fire, they would have burned the barn down.
Yeah.
But the second usefulness of an oil slick is that it is both oily and slick.
Yeah.
Now, when our partner in crime decided to light his hair on fire and woke up all the Barley Brothers, they done get out their haystacks and their bedrolls, and they started slipping up all over the damn barn because them oil slicks. Very much like my own experience.
Mm-hmm. So they're slipping and sliding all over the place.
Oh, sure as shine.
We're looking there guilty as sin. And it's at this point we gotta think about the whole story as a whole. And it sounds like throughout the day we've had, about half success. Of course, the Bobcat being the primary one.
And the dynamite.
Yes, and the dynamite. We've got about half failure, considering the train ride, only a quarter mile long and being rather bumpy, if I'm being honest. So it sounds like, well, the Barley boys done slipping all over the place, and us looking guilty. All we could do was run away and keep our lives, but none of our treasure. Isn't that about right, boys?
That's about as right as anyone who would say it was heard.
Well, I will say there was possibly one consolation that we at least rounded up our horses, which the Barley Brothers had brought back to the barn, and
Yes.
They had left the tackle and the saddles on all of them, so at least we could get back our horses and run away quicker than we could on foot.
Yes, I do suppose that is a good. So there we were, only having horses, riding off into the darkness, and, well, we made a campfire at some point, and here we are, gentlemen. Hell of a long day.
It was longer than I had ever seen a man's hair.
Of which you have none.
I had hair once. Luscious locks made of gold.
Well, I think on that note, as I transition back into my normal voice.
Whoa,
So the
Ian's
only-
back.
Hey guys.
Wow.
What's going on? How'd it go?
That was rough.
So the last thing we have to do is tell a brief epilogue for each of our cowboys. So I'll go first with JW. So we said that the Barley Brothers are very stupid, and I like to think that JW is just enough of a smooth talker and an older gentleman that his epilogue is that he eventually runs into the Barley Brothers again, but convinces all of them that he is their long-lost father, who they all thought was dead, and so now he runs the very stupid but somewhat successful in the local arena Barley Brothers gang. And that's the story of JW. Let's have Ahab. You go next. What's the fate of Ahab?
Well, Ahab had a very bad day that day, and it was a turning point in his life, and he realized he needed to embrace his middle name fully, so he became an oil baron. Very much like the film There Will Be Blood by Paul Thomas Anderson, and he drank a lot of milkshakes from a lot of people, and lived up to his nickname and became one of the West's greatest and most ruthless oil barons. And the very first thing he did when he came into his new fortune is he had a room dedicated to bobcat.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Stuffed bobcats and bobcat memorabilia.
Accessories. Bobcat and bobcat accessories.
yeah.
That's great.
And that's how he lived out the rest of his days, was being filthy rich and entirely devoted to the killing of bobcats by hugging to death.
I like it. So I guess that just leaves Will for you to tell the tale of Sleazy Pete.
Well, Sleazy Pete, he kind of, after finding the 5 gold coins he had hidden his horses behind,
that sounds like Sleazy Pete.
Went and spent them around, and then one night after a heavy amount of drinking, he tragically lost his life in a very, kind of, normal way. Unfortunately, he was trying to hug a train, and it just kind of, the cow catcher really, it also catches humans. And
just had so much love to go around.
Yeah, caught him right in the chest. It split open his rib cage, and spewed his guts everywhere. The amount of destruction and disgust that was left because of this was insane. The train driver, he actually committed suicide a few weeks later, just from the horror of it all.
Wow,
it's crazy.
Well, gentlemen, thus lived our cowboys. How are we feeling? Good?
Yeehaw.
Just very mediocre. Very half and half.
Yeah, I think that went pretty well. And honestly, that puts me even more in the mood for Red Dead Redemption 2 on this cowboy-themed episode of Tabletop RGB. Thank you once again to everybody out there for listening. Let's go through that lovely outro. Twitter handles, gentlemen. Kyle, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kyle of the Beard.
And Will Crosby?
You can find me at the local CVS going through all the vitamins, or you can find me on Twitter at Hunt270.
And you can find me, Ian Gibson, doing all sorts of weird things, but always wearing cowboy boots because they're actually surprisingly cool and comfortable. But mostly you can find me on Twitter at ThinkGibson. You can also find more Tabletop RGB as well as our other excellent podcast, Waveform, featuring developer and industry artist interviews on the Subpixel podcast feed, available on iTunes, Google, and Spotify. You can also watch all of our Subpixel content on YouTube. It's honestly easiest to find our channel by just going to subpixelfilms.com. That'll take you right to our Subpixel channel. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as @SubpixelTeam for updates on all of our releases. Gentlemen, I think it's time we gather the horses and ride off into the sunset. Ain't that right, boys?
I do declare.
Yeehaw, and until next time, partners. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.